Bonneville's 75th anniversary is this wonderful opportunity to remind people.
The decisions that we make have enormous impact on the now nearly 11 million people who live in this region.
The Northwest has been blessed with huge amounts of hydropower.
It's the fourth largest river system in the nation.
We had the cheapest power in North America.
The industries that are growing here tend to require power that is virtually perfect.
But the real engine is the equal rate.
That power undergirds our entire lifestyle.
We take that for granted every single day.
The Bonneville Power Administration sells power from the hydro system.
It's a management agency, a marketing agency.
It starts with the public responsibility.
Government investment for the public good.
At heart and soul. That's what we do.
The impact of the dams was huge.
We've lost the ability to go down and fish as we once did.
Now the tribes have a seat at the table.
As of recently, tribes have become more and more engaged in the energy industry because essentially natural resources play a huge role.
Bonneville is a treasure. It's an absolute treasure. Sometimes it's easy to forget that because when you're in the middle of a public dogfight, some people will look around and say, gosh, they fight about that a lot, don't they? They fight about it a lot because it's important.
The issues are huge.
It is complex.
You push the button in one way and it has unintended consequences in another.
Everything in electricity is connected to everything else.
And it only gets more complex as we make more demands on the system.
We have wind, we have solar, we have geothermal, we have biomass, we have wave. Our challenge is really to figure out how to develop those cost effectively.
Of course, the wind doesn't always blow and the sun certainly doesn't always shine up here in the Northwest. And if we really want to have a renewable energy future, then hydro needs to continue to be a very big part of it.
Energy still has the single greatest impact on the environment.
You can always hear the question here, is it the right thing to do?
It cannot be operated to the advantage of one party over the other.
I think our role is constantly reinterpreted as we go through time.
There have been long periods where relative calm and stability, and then there'll be some shock that comes along that causes a huge, huge change in the industry.
Bonneville has emerged, and the Northwest has emerged with Bonneville's help as an international leader in efficiency and renewables development.
BPA's biggest accomplishment is the transmission system.
Nowhere in the world do you find a species recovery program like we have here.
It's a really exciting time right now. So what's the next chapter?
Are we looking at how we do things better, faster, smarter?
And our best days are really still ahead of us.
Power rates continue to be really important.
We see restoration of salmon throughout the basin.
It's simple. Can I go down and fish for me and my family?
The how we get there is very important.
Oh, I was born here in 1927. People out in the country didn't have electricity.
In the rural areas, they were stuck without it.
When you look at that time, you see a lot of hardship in the region, a lot of abject poverty.
The Federal Columbia River Power System was constructed in part to bring power to rural America.
The choice for rural electrification, which began in the early 30s, is heroic in changing lives, especially women's lives.
It was a terrible job doing the laundry. Everything had to be ironed. A lot of women got burnt bad. So much hard work. We couldn't get electricity unless we built the line ourselves.
Bonneville actually hired people to go out and help form rural electric cooperatives.
They brought light and they brought life to a lot of regions of the Northwest that otherwise would not have it.
During World War II, it was the Grand Coulee that furnished a lot of electricity for the defense program.
It was the biggest thing on earth, and we were building it. It was an American project built by Americans in a time of great economic distress.
The timeline of when they envisioned these major hydropower projects until they got them done is incredibly short from a historical perspective, and it's an amazing feat.
The high voltage transmission grid has been every bit as vital to the Pacific Northwest.
It's a freeway, yep, a toll road.
By the 60s and the 70s, we had a power system that truly was the envy of anybody around the world who would take a look at it.
Celilo was built in the late 60s to get a large amount of power long distance. We were the largest and longest line in the world. It's 846 miles long and goes to Silmar, California. And 3,100 megawatts is a lot of power. During the spring, when we have excess water in the Northwest, we convert that power to DC, ship it to California. It's over doubled in size since the station originally was built. Expanding the station and increasing the capacity from 31 to 3,800 megawatts will increase our reliability. So we can get more substation in a smaller footprint. And it just takes a lot of people to keep a station like this running.
When your friends ask, what does your husband do?
We're out here keeping the lights on.
Well, he's a lineman.
I've only been a lineman here for a year.
He climbs towers and he helps, power your city.
Yeah. And we have to be able and proficient at so many different things.
You don't really think about your electricity until it's not working.
From our basic understanding of electricity to be very proficient at climbing.
It's a scary job.
If somebody does get injured up there, we have the know-how to go rescue them.
During storm season, you kind of stay up at night and wonder, are they safe? Are they okay?
We take a lot of pride in this power system.
My husband works for Bonneville Power, one of the safest organizations.
We want a good, safe, reliable product at the end of the day.
How's your day at school, buddy?
Every time the power's out, or any time that you flip on a switch, we kind of say a little prayer that, we thank a lineman for that.
Most people, they have no idea the work, the investment, the knowledge that was necessary to make that light come on when they flip that switch.
By seeing what it takes, maybe they'll use it more efficiently.
The first gift was water, the giver of all life. Second was the fish.
The Indian remembered how much fish was in the river.
And water is a big thing as Native Americans.
The hydroelectric system benefited everyone.
Everyone needs electricity.
But it really had negative impact on the tribes and on their cultures and on their livelihoods.
Our people have been here up to 40,000 years, since time immemorial, that we put everything aside, kind of renewed family ties, family histories, a sense of spirituality, a sense of worship.
And that's how we build relationships and interest in the local community.
The fishery down at Celilo was probably the biggest for the year.
But ultimately, what supported that kind of gathering, annual gathering, was the fishing that was happening there.
The annual average salmon catch at Celilo Falls was 1.9 million pounds.
And that fish filtered out throughout the region and fed thousands and thousands and thousands of people for generations.
Those fish, when they spawn, they bring tremendous amounts of marine nutrient back to those ecosystems.
What a magnificent story of life and creation that is.
The fishing sites and fast water of the river were inundated by the rising pool behind that project. A great and historic site on the Columbia had vanished.
And I don't think anybody quite comprehended at that time the changes that were going to be taking place on the river.
It's hard for us as non-tribal members to truly understand how important fish and wildlife are to the tribal culture and to them as people.
We weren't place-bound. We had this more dynamic interrelationships that we need to respect and renew.
We had to be good stewards or good managers of all of those things that the Creator gave to us.
Science went into, how we lived and operated and our culture and communities.
Tribes pay homage to the way that our natural systems work.
The impact of the dams was huge.
The problem was much more complex than initially understood.
We have fish ladders so that fish can go upriver. Coming downstream was another problem.
We had periods of time in which there weren't enough fish to hardly fish at all.
I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here today to witness a historical moment.
We're proud to join the tribes and the states in this public commitment here today.
On that day, we took a huge step for putting fish back into the river.
We believe in addressing the whole ecosystem in a holistic approach, and that includes hydrosystem operations, habitat restoration, and the appropriate use of hatcheries.
And natural resources are going to work together to rebuild our future.
We're working together to try to restore fish and wildlife in a fashion that is consistent with the tribe's values and reflects what they think are the right actions that need to be taken.
And they have thousands and thousands of years of experience working with these resources on this land.
The tribes over the years have amassed one of the most effective fisheries management forces in the world.
Well, this is Spring Creek, and it's our largest scale habitat restoration project that we've done to date.
If you take a look, you'll notice that the fish count has gradually escalated over that period and has gone up and risen.
In our lifetime, we have seen 4, 5, 6-year-old fish coming back to the Shears Falls area. That we used to catch those at Celilo.
And so we try to stay focused on this each and every day about what kinds of things that we're doing and how it might land in the tribal world.
Bonneville is listening, and many other people in this region are listening to what the tribes have to say about salmon.
The production, the productivity of those runs are beginning to come back.
I think in a lot of ways our identity within the region is tied to those efforts.
Things feel very different than the way they used to feel.
I think we've made tremendous strides.
We're not here for a minute or two.
We've got to manage for the 7 generations into the future.
We should stay the course.
This is a historical moment of some great consequence.
Northwest Power Act of 1980 was the first legislation, federal legislation, to basically define energy conservation and what we would now call energy efficiency as a resource.
Bonneville was, of course, at the heart of getting it enacted.
We made some mistakes along the way. We invested in some generation that was really expensive.
The load growth projections were off.
So there were a whole host of things going on at once. It was federal legislation, but it was largely negotiated by various parties and stakeholders here in the Northwest.
We have that underpinning, that statutory license to develop energy efficiency as a resource.
It was a real challenge back then, especially to electric utilities who made their money by building plants.
Energy efficiency was the new kid on the block. It was a foreign object jammed into an organization that was all about generation and transmission.
This is the city. A lot of new appliances waste energy here. Which model did you see stealing electricity?
They all look alike from here. It could be that cute almond-colored refrigerator.
The facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
The Northwest energy crisis. As Californians face blackouts, we brace to pay the price.
During the California market meltdown in the early 2000s,
The whole system, and indeed the whole society, was at risk.
At a time when we were having the second lowest water year in the 70 years of recorded history in the Columbia Basin.
What allowed the West to emerge from the electricity crisis was the most effective region-wide energy efficiency campaign ever conducted.
We are back with our live town hall special, Power Drain, the Northwest energy crisis. Now, earlier in this hour,
the investment that Bonneville and the Northwest had made in energy efficiency over the prior 30-some-odd years paid for itself in about a year.
This is the one, officer.
On a market that had gone completely crazy.
The appliances you have just seen are real. Only the labels have been changed to protect the innocent.
BPA's greatest accomplishment over the whole 75 years was its energy efficiency leadership.
We don't operate at retail. It only happens if we work together with our customers in order to be able to accomplish the energy efficiency.
Because you have to do it house by house, business by business.
I have a good response from people.
What we're looking to do is take this to -50
and say, this is what can happen, and this is what you're doing right now. And I show them, I'm like, this is what's wrong.
So I really like the heat pump.
They're convenient, they're cheap, and they're effective.
That's been great. I love it.
They've seen a reduction by up to 50% on their heating bill.
The more energy savings we can bring in through either our programs in agriculture or the other sectors, it's a win for the utilities because they can meet their targets. It's a win for the farmers because they can reduce their energy load, their water load, their fertilizer application. And it's a win for Bonneville because it helps us meet our targets.
This saves us $200,000 a year in energy.
We pursue energy efficiency as a tangible power resource.
Thank you for the partnership.
When you're looking for energy efficiency in a commercial or industrial facility, the first place to look is up.
We expect to save 1.25 million kilowatt hours per year.
There's some pretty significant breakthroughs that we're on the cusp of that have the potential to save a lot of energy.
Now we're getting customers saying, we're going to do that because we understand the value proposition. Getting that more broadly understood will make the energy efficiency marketplace more intuitive and more internalized.
We have collected about 2 Grand Coulee Dams worth of energy that we didn't have to build.
And is the #1 resource. According to the Power Conservation Council, will cover 85% of our future load requirement.
We can get about 3 more Grand Coulee Dams worth of energy efficiency in the next 20 years.
It has amazing value.
Saving the world 1 kilowatt hour at a time.
We're not shareholders and investors or random regional users of power. Our identity is tied to our place on the earth.
Tribes have become more and more engaged in the energy industry because natural resources play a huge role.
As the dams were built and as the reclamation projects and the flood control projects were built, they heavily impacted tribal resources.
Our goal is to find a way to make sure that tribes end up in a place where they would say, you know, maybe the federal hydro system is not something, the development of that is not something we would have done, but there has been some value that's been created here.
Wholesale power sales to Indian tribes had never been done before. In 2000, we said we want development and energy sales specific to tribes.
Of the 565 tribes around the country, there's only a handful of tribal utilities.
Bonneville allocated a great deal of resources to our organization looking at utility development.
You've had 80 years of electrical service here on the reservation, yet you've never enjoyed any of the benefits of the employment or having the ability to have lower rates or direct control.
And now Yakima Power is here, which is going to benefit our children and their children.
It's a change in our life. This is Yakima Nation.
I grew up on this reservation, grew up in one of the very first housing projects this place ever had. Coming back as a Native American lineman, there's not that many, anywhere. You've got a couple of other utilities that are on this reservation that are serving customers here.
Business is a competition.
We've been told that we didn't know what we were doing. We were going to get people killed.
And I watched the crews put up power lines, tear down poles, replace infrastructure. You know, and I think that, 2 years ago, I didn't even have this capability. We didn't have a crew, and yet now we have an all-native crew able to go out and do the construction.
There's not anything that we can't do.
Well, we've been to Mission Valley Power a couple of times to take a look at their warehouse. Our goal is to get to 16 megawatts as fast as possible.
The change in the relationship with the tribes has been almost revolutionary in the past 10 years.
Opening some of these doors has given the tribes a new way of stepping in and being part of all the negotiations that are related to the hydroelectric system.
It also puts the tribes in the lead.
We can participate now and change the way the energy industry is going.
The biggest hurdle is making the decision to say yes.
This is right and it's okay. We can do this.
We're getting back some of what was taken away from us.
Think about it. It's raw and physical, tied to the rivers.
This is part of a one step to heal.
It is a very beautiful day indeed to see the sunrise, to realize that we are alive.
The Columbia River unites us all the way across this basin. It enriches us, it enlivens us, and it electrifies us.
And today, very grateful to be here to witness what is going to take place.
To celebrate the 75th anniversary of what is arguably the most significant occasion in the history of the 20th century in the Pacific Northwest.
Wonderful program.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the first car, the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
My friends, to the people of this country, in the construction of this dam, we have had our eyes on the future of the nation. Its cost will be returned
to the people of the United States many times over in the improvement of navigation, transportation, the cheapening of electric power, and the distribution of this power to hundreds of small communities within a great radius.
75 years ago, the Bonneville Dam was a landmark public works project to provide jobs during the Great Depression, and since then, it's been a source of affordable and reliable electricity for industry and individuals across the Pacific Northwest.
The Bonneville Dam also played an instrumental role in the country's defense in World War II, supplying power to the nearby aluminum plants producing 50,000 warplanes. And electricity from the dam also powered local shipyards that at one point turned out a Liberty ship every day.
So countless people were emancipated from the grip of poverty. Freedom was secured, lives were saved, our quality of life has been enhanced, and our air is the cleanest in the nation. What could possibly tug at our conscience in the shadow of those accomplishments? Well, the development of this river has exacted a cost in terms of the native fish and wildlife that inhabited the river's reach, and a cost to the cultural and spiritual life of the people who relied most on the river's natural bounty and received the least from the development of this system, the region's native tribes.
In 3/4 of a century, Bonneville has necessarily adapted and changed to protect our resources.
Together we are beginning to right the wrongs.
That's the future that we've promised our children.
be they Indian children or non-Indian children. That's what we have said that we will do and continue to do, because we believe that there is no challenge that working together we cannot collaboratively address and solve.
We stand today at the rallying point for all who live in the Northwest.
Today, BPA is a model for renewable energy options.
But we cannot impede progress because each and every one of us live in a home and we use the electricity that comes through the lines.
As we look forward, we must do so while acknowledging that aging infrastructure reduces efficiency in electricity production, that we'll need to focus on integrating generation into smart grid systems, that if we work together, we can help meet the growing energy needs of our country with renewable power.
The Northwest has emerged with Bonneville's help as an international leader in efficiency and renewables development. It's a success story by any measure.
And no matter what the challenges ahead, we will be better prepared to meet them collectively than separately.
But it's also an opportunity for us to look forward to the next 75 years and to the future of the BPA.
Let's utilize it, protect it, and pass it on for future generations' prosperity and for their economic freedom.
Today we seek to go further, to bring down the barriers that separate economic success from ecological health and unite them in common purpose.
Together we watch over the river that creates the most amazing energy on Earth.
The future of this river, the future of this great resource, should be an inspiration to us and to the world.
Roll on, Columbia. Roll on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Songs are waiting, Mr. Guthrie. It's what we're looking for. Leave the killing machine. You won't need it anymore. Just some hard-working people, struggling families. We want to give them some water and some electricity. You can wander through the valley, hear the sounds turn into song, feel the river's vastness, the mighty Columbia, she rolls on. Streams from glaciers melting, gentle rain, forest farms, desert thunderstorm raging. She calls with open arms. Write some songs, Mr. Guthrie. It's what we're looking for. Leave us